Welcome to the fourth episode of the column What the Money Is. After making an overview of the Middle Age in the last episode, we begin today a series of episodes coming in more details, starting with Venice, which it represents after the decline of Rome and the dark centuries that followed the fall of the empire, a new dawn for the Mediterranean, which was obscured for a long time by the East and the Byzantine Empire. In fact, if up to the 9th centuries the exchange ratio between gold and silver with the East pauperized the West, even with the currency reform of Charlemagne, from this date until the 16th century, Venice was able to exploit this mechanism to its advantage by placing the foundation for the European Renaissance. Venice has obscure origins, but we can place its foundation with the arrival of Attila in Italy and part of the population that took refuge in the islets of Venetian lagoon. In the new Venetian society, these had a leveling effect. The old Roman aristocracy was based more on ability than on succession. This Venetian aristocracy took a democratic form of cooperative for the welfare of the Republic. Family cooperation were the base of the business regulated by law. The later form of partnership will be called colleganza, a sort of fellowship, derived from the Muslim, with two partners, one engaged in commercial sea voyage and the other who provide for the investment remaining in Venice. The profit were shared while loss were borne by the partner investor. At the beginning of the 8th century, with the demographically lowest record in Italy since the fall of Rome, Venice ignored the ban of Byzantine for the trade with the Arabs and began commercial exchange with substantial profits, hundreds of times greater than when he had to enforce the ban. Thanks to the trade with Alexandria in Egypt, in particular the trade route by the Arsinoe's Channel, Venice turned down to his advantage the exchange ratio between gold and silver in India, bypassing the Byzantines for the Muslim in Alexandria. This made rapidly accumulating capital. In fact, Venice was able to lay the foundation for the European Renaissance. With the Arsinoe's Channel, now Suez, increased safety and easy for the transport of goods between East and West. Another factor of fundamental importance, underestimated by historians, Venice brought the ratio between gold and silver with a change of 7 to 1 in its favor, compared with the 12 to 1 that would have to pay through Byzantium. Throughout antiquity until the 17th century, who dominate the trade relationships for gold and silver usually dominate in the West. In the West came mainly gold. The Venetian paid with 7 pieces of silver, spice, silks, fabrics, perfumes, and medicine that Venetian were selling up in Pavia, which became the main commercial hub of southern Europe. In the east were sold slaves, wood, iron, and silver. In 1104, it was founded the Venice dockyard, Arsenale, the largest construction site in Europe to make ships for the powerful Venetian fleet, with specific destination at certain months of the year. These ships were traveling together in fleets, sharing fees and risks, and creating seasonal cycles that characterized the European trade and finance. The convoy was called Muda. The Doge was a paid political officer set up by Byzantium, but elected by the Venetians that initially depended on Byzantine Basileum, remembering as an important monetary function at this religious office. That committed Venice to the Patriarch of Aquila until the 892 AD, when he had to acknowledge Serenissima as a religious center. Venice did not participate to the First Crusade to not damage the relation with Alessandria for the Arsinoe's Channel, but then with the conquest of the Holy Land and the new overland route to the east, changed the business partner with Antioch, Tyre and Palmyra, participating in particular to the Fourth Crusade to overthrow the monetary power of Constantinople, which in the meantime had been allied with the enemies of Genoa. In 1204, Venice with its fleet were essential to plunder Constantinople. It received 85,000 silver marks in advance, plus half of the booty and half of the conquered territories, but also the secret hegemony on the exchange ratio between gold and silver with India, that was worth more than all of the rest. The spoils of plunder to Venice was 900,000 silver marks. Until the sack of Constantinople, Venice was very shy in the money issue and preferred to use the currency of its major trading partners, such as the Byzantine one, subject to tribute, or the muslin or gold and silver coin minted by the Franks. The international accounts were denominated in gold. The first Venetian coin was minted between the 1172 and the 1178 after the opening of large silver mines in Freiburg in Germany. The Doge Ziani coined the silver denarii containing 1.10 grams of silver, that is 240 denarii of the Roman weight, and a copper coin, the mezzo denaro, which contained 5% of silver. Silver was used by the state and by the local business. Venice not coined gold, the still prerogative of the Byzantine Basileum. After the sacking of Constantinople, Venice used the booty to coin the silver coin grosso with 2.141 grams of silver, which became the largest silver coin most used in Europe. The weight was 2% less than the denarii to take consideration of the usury and to let circulate the two currencies side by side. The Mint of Venice was property of the Republic, and the coinage was regulated by the law on 1278 in an act with 134 commas, including tax coinage very low, or 0.8%, and profit for the states. The mint was run by paid officials for short periods without immediate confirmation. We engraved paid most of the master of the mint. Their movements were carefully checked. With the fall of the Byzantine Empire, the Venetian monetary system had to protect itself from foreign manipulation. After 1250, all gold bullion or silver bullion entering in Venice had to be registered before sale, and only Venetian could export currency. Byzantium was able to maintain the ratio of coins in silver and gold at 12:1 for many centuries. I thought Venice had managed to escape from this ratio by controlling it in the West. After the fall of Constantinople, ratio began to fluctuate rapidly. Between 1250 and 1360, the ratio was changing in Venice from 88.5 to 1 up to 14.2 to 1, and then down at 9.6 to 1. Venice rarely tried to maintain a fixed ratio by law for commercial mentality, and even tried to keep a relationship at loss to enable merchants small profits, but not at the expense of the Republic. Byzantium would also have opposed to the ratio with implementation of custom rates, internal legal rules, and sacred prerogative. Florence instead tried to establish a ratio by law in 1279 at 10:1, but the speculation did fall before the value of gold by melting the silver florins for profit. Then the value of gold went up, making bullions more profitable of the issue. Then the gold fell again. Florence quickly abandoned the fixed ratio for two separate regulations, one for gold and one for silver, with fluctuating quotes. In 1284, Venice coined the first gold coin, the Ducato, with the Doge Giovanni Dandolo. It weighed 56 grains and continued to the tradition of the Constantinople's Byzantine coin. Venice initially established a permanent legal ratio at 10.7 to 1, but left it in 1296 as regulation on the bimetallism often made vulnerable to the speculative attack to the states. Venice coined until the 15th century four different currency, two based on gold and two based on silver. Them only two, one in gold and one in silver. Venice also condemned usury, and as in the other city, lender had the right to the interest on a commercial contract only in the case of combined risk for the uncertainty of return of capital, as we should see in the episode devoted to the Christian scholars. This encouraged the flow of capital in the business rather than lending to the pawn shops. The spirit of cooperation of Venetian on monetary matters was firmly until the Tiepolo-Quirinese conspiracy in the decade 1292-1302, which saw the constitutional hereditary in the leadership. Since then, Venice was hit by various speculations, as in 1317-1318, when some private mint coined the silver coin piccolo, which means small, in high amount, at least 200,000 per month. In 1321, Venice abolished the absence of the piccolo in any payment in favor of the grosso, with precautionary deposits in gold and silver. These, however, drastically reduced the money supply in Venice for the benefit of those who held grosso and creditors. The Venetian monetary system back under a domestic attack in 1327, when the bankers, aware of the reopening of the trade relation with Egypt and the large amount of gold expected, wanted the right to liquidate the holders' account in silver with cheap gold. And in 1328, they obtained a law fixing the gold-silver ratio at 14.2 to 1, the highest level in 50 years, to pay off cheaper their silver debts. The reopening of the Egyptian route was due to the final defeat in the Crusade and the loss of control in the Middle East. But the effect will be disastrous with an overestimation of gold that eliminates the silver from circulation, flowing out massively to Constantinople, so that from the 1335 the silver grosso ceased to be a mean of payment in Venice. The trade with India after opening to Egypt resumed only in 1345, but the influx of gold pushed the ratio down at 9 to 1. In 1343, in Venice was elected Doge Andrea Dandolo as to remedy the monetary problems, as his ancestor Enrico and Giovanni were the protagonists of some of the previous monetary success. Dandolo will also obtain a reintroduction of numisma, which I will discuss later. Since the mid-13, the gold lost value in relation to silver due to the reopening of trade relations with Egypt, previously closed for the Crusade. Frederick Lane called this a turning point in the history of the European monetary system, also linked to the suppression of the Knight Templar in 1307, and a breakdown in their trading links with the East during the Crusade. The location of Venice was still dominant in Europe thanks to the control of the gold-silver ratio in the East and the spice trade, but the monetary policy would change. Whereas before they wore gold in Europe in exchange for slaves and other commodities, now Venice sent primary silver in the East in exchange for gold and spice, replicating what the Byzantine Empire has done for centuries to destroy the European monetary system in silver, exporting it in India. The European monetary system, in fact, have always had its power thanks to the use of small coins. In silver, more abundant than gold, as silver was among the Greeks or bronze was for the Romans. Bankers preferred gold, poor and in few hands, more easily manipulated, unlike silver or bronze, much more abundant. If in old age, with the Greek first and the Roman then, there was a monetary system based on most metals, this huge influx of gold will bring Europe more and more towards almost exclusive gold system, which major consequence in the creation of the first corporation and banking concentration for large investment. Venice, in fact, applied to the Egyptian government reduced tariff to ship the silver in the East because it was more interested in the tariff on silver rather than on other goods. The silver tariff was reduced from 10% to 2%, while silver coins has no circulation in Egypt, but were sent to India. This brought much gold in Italy, and from 1360 to 1370, the ratio dropped at 9.6 to 1 in Venice and Florence. According to Spafford, by this time, the gold came in large quantity in Northern Europe for funding and loans. Venice exported large amounts of silver in Asia, in the order of more than 13 million silver grossi per year, about 20,000 tons. Europe was soon stripped of the money supply in silver, essential for the small business, while large funds used gold for money supply. At the end of the 13th, the crisis of silver has reached a proportion not seen since the 7th century. But the greater scarcity occurred from the 1457 to the 1464, when a lot of mines in Europe were closed. In the north, it remained open only that of London, while Naples was forced to mint a coin in pure copper, the Cavalli, in 1472. Venice also began minting the copper coins called bagattini in 1473. These new coins were actually favorable for the economy of Europe, because on the one hand, this was losing the silver, and the other regained new one's knowledge in money introduced by the Romans, with the use of metals much more abundant and less manipulable as copper, of which the old continent was rich. Most likely, the shortage of silver will soon lead to a new monetary revolution based on poor metals, and perhaps to the reintroduction of Roman and Aristotelian numisma, of which there were already new coins in the Venetian charities, which were not at all ignorant in this matter, manipulating for centuries the exchange ratio in the West. But just when the power era began opening to a new system, the discovery of the Americas with their abundant gold, and the opening of new routes to India by the Portuguese in 1507, take away to Venice the leadership and its dominance in the eastern trade, bringing Europe back in time. Venice tried with great caution, even of different way, that gold and silver. The caution was also due to the delicate equilibrium in a very divided Europe. The Serenissima has had an experience during the siege of Tyre in 1122, where the Doge Michele exhausted the funds to pay his soldiers, and created money printed on the later with the promise to redeem in precious metals when returned to Venice. This later money worked during the Crusade, but not having been legalized, its circulation was poor, and once back in Venice, almost all people preferred to convert it in silver. But the experience served to demonstrate the operation of the money to the connoisseur experts as the Venetians. In fact, in 1353, the aforementioned Doge Andrea Dandolo began minting the tornasello for circulation in extra Venetian territories, including the modern Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and the former Yugoslavia, with a nominal value. The tornasello were made in copper and silver, legally valued at 2x their metal content. The cost of minting, unfortunately, were about 25% of the value of money, not differing greatly from the value of the metal content. But it was also always a first form of numisma from Roman time. Although in Rome the value for money was by law at least 4 times their metal value. The tornasello in circulation was used to pay the cost for government expense such as fortification, fleets, crews, and etc. And it was very popular. Unfortunately, until they were minted according to the needs, their legal value had the confidence of traders. But when, after the 1390 was issued in larger amounts, about 4,100 billion in a year, the tornasello has not had the scarcity and use value due to the widespread ignorance of the population, numisma, and its legal value. The Venetians in the territory, they are now afraid of asking to be paid with a discount of 20% on payment. In Venice, however, in 1379, it sets off a newly minted overestimated silver grosso almost identical to the old grosso, but with a star print and legally access at the double of the old coinage. The new grosso was coined for decades, while Venice obtained partial benefits from the Torniselli, probably because they did not think to get the absentance of the value of 4 times or more of the currency to replicate the Roman monetary system. Since the beginning of the 16th century, Venice entering the clean in favor of Portugal and Antwerp, which controlled the new routes to the Indies. The Cape of Good Hope opened in 1503. Here it ended the Venetian domination on east-west trade on the radio between gold and silver. Already after a few years, the Portuguese imported 2.3 million pounds of spices per year, mostly pepper, very expensive at that time. The Venetian trade through Alexandria fell by the 75%. Charlemagne, there was a slight recovery on the issue in the economy thanks to the small silver coin, but his monetary system did not survive to the king. Venice had the opportunity to manage for centuries the exchange ratio of gold and silver with the East in the West, but wasted the opportunity to create a monetary system of Roman type. Perhaps out of shyness, most likely for a changed historical context than the dawn of Rome, is not really developed an advanced system like numisma. So when finance and debt later become a problem, could not use the money to fix it. In Venice, in fact, it appeared what is considered the first real national debt in history, a financial innovation that soon will mark throughout Europe. But of this we will speak in the next episode, and I greet you reminding that if you like this episode and will help my research, you can donate through my blog Daniele Pace bloguk.blogspot.co.uk, where to buy as well my books. Thanks to all.